I got 1 hour and 15 to solve the rest. All right, we're back. We are COMP308, and it's Emergency Technologies in the Winter 2017 semester. It's week 10, part 3 of our broadcast. We're going to talk about Firebase and how to set that up. So what is Firebase? Firebase is a Google service, right? Neat for those people who want to do this. If you notice, I have, you have to, in order for you to set up Firebase, you must have a Google account. So please set that up. That means Gmail, will be good. Now I've set up a project from earlier today, right? When I'm setting a new one. Notice when I went to Google Firebase, on the right, one day when it gets there, there is a go to console link. Go to console. Please go to Firebase and click go to console. Now, if you don't have access and if you don't see a little image there or something that says it's about you, right? That means you haven't logged in with Gmail or some kind of Google account. Go to console. When you go there, you see this little Firebase symbol when it's loading, and I have a bunch of projects. You may have none. New project. You're going to call it your project. Mine's going to be called W2017 Lesson 10B, right? Please call it something else for you. I'm going to go into Canada, B, and then click Create Project. It's time, but what it does is it's going to make, and I know there's a limit, it's going to make your project, and your project is going to turn up here. Now notice what it can do. You can add Firebase to your iOS application. You can add Firebase to your Android application. Hell, you can add Firebase to Unity. If you're a gamer and you want to keep track of high scores, all kinds of uses for Firebase. Again, I highly recommend, if you go to Docs, this is where for everything, including C++, right? So from a gaming perspective, I think they've really positioned themselves in a good place. Why would you want to use Firebase for Unity? Because it has things like authentication, logging in, logging out. It includes things like a back-end storage system, so you can store images and files. It includes things like a database system. Let's go back to my console. Right? You would go beyond a certain level. Right? Again, this, I'm not paying them right now. If you go to this, you can see that on the left, these are the services they have: authentication, database, storage, hosting, a bunch of other things they have here, notifications. Hosting is for static sites right now for free. As databases, which we want. We want to use authentication in database. For us to set up, however, this is the setup we need to do. First things first, click on this little box. You're going to go to project settings. On the right, you're going to see a bunch of the project name, the public facing name, ID, and so on, the web API. You need to use this, but we're going to record this in a second. Notice on the bottom, Firebase to your Android app or your web app, right? You want to, we're going to be coming down here and clicking this button because it's going to give us these keys. Okay, it's going to look like this. We're going to come back to this, but this is where we press this button right here, and that's through this part right here. We go to settings, and we're going into general and going down, scrolling down to this part. That's where we got this information. We're also going to have to create something called a service account. It's going to be useful for us when we connect to the database because we want to connect as an admin. All right. So some of the ways we have to do by what we've got already, right? So we're going to start at the basic level. So we're going to go back out to our root. Back out to our root. The goal of today is to try and get rid of passport authentication and use Firebase for authentication. Period. Gone, right? Which is really cool. Let's take a look at that. So on the root of our server, right now, add a Firebase RC file, .firebase RC. So I'm going to just click away, click on the top here and kind of put RC. Okay. Inside this Firebase RC file, it's just a configuration file where you're going to describe projects, and you're going to describe the default project, name of the project, which you just got from Firebase, which is COMP308, W2017, whatever you called it, right? This part. Put it in here. So that's, you need that Firebase RC file. That's the first part, right? It's just, again, we're just configuring right now, okay? These are all requirements of what we're doing. Next piece you need for Firebase is a firebase.json file. Let's do that. So we're going to go to the top, add in a firebase.json file. Firebase.json file is similar. We're going to add in a configuration space, and we're going to put in a rules. We're going to say database. This points to the rule set online by default. Hosting, which is going to be public and client. These options here will allow us to host our database and very good. So the two files we need on the root. One thing we didn't add in was database.rules.json on the other side. I don't know if we didn't do that, Aaron, but I forgot to. Here's the database.rules.json. Let's point to it. Database.rules. We need to put those anyway. Database.rules.json, that's the other one. We define our rules. We say the rules are read. We don't have any authorization. So the average user does not have authorization at all. With write, they don't have read and write access. You need to be authorized, right, in order for you to read and write from the database. That's what the rules are. So those are just configuration files on the root of our folder. Now, where the big changes come in are, so I click on server and I go into my config file, right? Inside my config file, I want to add two files, .js. So right click, new, firebase.js, and right click, new, firebase.json. We're going to kind of fix in a second. Firebase.js, what do we want to do here? Why are we going here? Well, we're going to require Firebase right here, right, in our configuration file. But in order for us to have access to do that, we need to install it on the command line. So I'm going to kind of stop this for a second, this craziness. And here we're going to do our npm command, right? So we're going to say npm install. I'm going to install firebase-admin, as well as, well, let's just do those first. -- save. That goes out, grabs Firebase. So we need to the plugin for a Node application. Cool. And then after we've done that, what we want to do is go and grab our code hinting for Firebase. So you guys get that command? It's this one. It is npm firebase-admin -- Is it? Sorry. And we're going to do npm install. So we're going to get some type hinting for Firebase, and we're going to say Firebase -- -save -dev, the development dependency. This is just code hinting, so we don't need it as a dependency for the project, just as a development dependency. Press enter. It's going to grab code hinting for TypeScript to give us better code hinting. All right, we're good. So we got those two things in place. Okay, now that we got that inside of our, and while you let that go, guys, and go into your firebase.js file in config. Now we're going to start putting in our requirements. So these are our Firebase requirements. I think you guys can see this. See if I can turn the light down a little bit. I don't know if that makes it any better, but hopefully that makes it better. Okay, and I'll also, is that better, a little bit better? Yeah, made a bit larger for you guys. So Firebase requirements. So, so we're going to say let Firebase equals to require Firebase, right? That's the plugin for Firebase. We're also going to make an admin service. So let admin equal to require dash admin. Let our service account, remember that service account we're talking about, to give me admin access, equal to require, and we have this already, slash firebase.json, -json, or sorry, not JSON. Here, we just put that in, remember? It was empty. Right now it's just nothing inside of it. We're pointing to it. That's a service account. Is our service account. Where do we get that information? Right? Let's get that now. You guys got this already? From Google, right? Online, right? Remember we went here? Well, if you scroll down, again, I went to do what I did. I went to this button here, project settings, service accounts, scroll all the way down to this where it says generate new private key. Click onto it. It's going to generate the new private key as a file. Store it on somewhere else like a desktop, or you can actually use that as well. If I open it up, so I kind of go to the desktop here. It's just a JSON file. Here it is on the desktop. I want to open it up with, I don't know, Text Wrangler, let's say. And in Text Wrangler, this is all this stuff. Look what this is, right? This is a PGP file, is what Aaron said. Copy this whole thing. And then we're going to go to our code here inside our Firebase JSON and paste it. That is this file here is the file that's going to give us all the information for connecting to Firebase. And again, we got that from here, from generate new private key under settings, generate new private key. Are you with me? No? Okay, hold on. So I went to here, settings, project settings, service accounts. I went down here to generate the new private key. You got the private key? And then when I went to my desktop, opened it up with Text Wrangler, copied it, and I went back into my Visual Studio Code. And under the config, I have another file called firebase.json. And I pasted it in there. There's firebase.js and firebase.json. You just copy paste that stuff in there. Okay? Are you with me now? All right. So now that you have your service account, that's all the API information you need for the service account, right? And in here, with service account is equal to require. Requirements?
Yeah, you're just adding it up now and we'll send it to you.
Okay, I'll work with Eddie afterwards. Eddie, you okay with that? Our service account done. We want to do the next line, which is we want to initialize Firebase admin for database access. That's what we're doing, right? And what we're going to do here is we're going to say admin, that's this right here, right? Dot initialize app, and two things: credential, which is admin credential.cert. And we're going to pass in service account. Put in database URL, which is going to be equal to the database URL which you find from your database down here, right? So here it is. In fact, look, you can even copy it right from here. There. That's what you should have right now. Next, I want to initialize app, right? And the way to do that is to grab the configuration keys. That's the app ports. This is the admin part. I'm gonna initialize the Firebase for normal people app. That there's two parts to it, right? And where you get that is settings again, right? Settings, project settings. And if you scroll all the way down here where it says web app, so again, I went to the settings and then add Firebase to web app. If you click that, you're going to get this. Grab that whole thing and copy it and paste it in there underneath where I put in initialize Firebase app. You're good to go. That is your configuration key. There's two, right? There's one for the admin and one for things like auth domain, storage bucket, message ID, all this stuff that you can do to use different services across Google, right? Okay, I'm just going to move this up so I don't want to show that too much. And then underneath here, what I want to do is I want to put let Firebase DB, making a new object called Firebase DB equals to database, right? That's going to set up the Firebase DB. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to start exporting. So I'm going to say module.exports are controllers is equal to Firebase DB. And what .ref is a reference to the Firebase database, right? Now you can have more than one. Think about this as an array. We've got an array of games. It's a little different. It's a NoSQL database, but it's not exactly JSON like we saw in MongoDB. Array. It's in an array format, or it can be anyway. In my case, it will be. The next part is module.exports. Admin is equal to admin. So we're going to pass out the admin function as well. So I can get admin authorization. This module.exports.auth for authorization. And when I authenticate, those kind of things, I'm going to just call it firebase.auth. All that code hinting. Oops, auth with one of those. I'm getting all that code hinting because I kind of installed Firebase with the type settings for Firebase. Good. This is your configuration file, right? We're not going to touch this again. We've got this thing here in place with Firebase admin and everything else. We're not going to do it any other time. So I'm going to put this up on GitHub for you guys to see. So I'm going to say added config. Okay. And there you go. Great. Okay, cool. So now we've got Firebase config done. We're ready to start adding some functionality. Remember, we talked about changing up our authentication from what it was now, from what is here, to our new authentication methods. Okay. So what I'm going to start with is, in previous times, we had our index, right, route our routing and our index. So if I go to our index page, so I'm going to go here and go to our routing. This not only was routes, but also had controller logic in here, and we've separated it out. We separate it into index, users, and games, and API. Let's go to index for now. Index, right? You can see that we have two routes, our home route and a contact route. Now, you might say, well, what are we doing here with authentication? Well, look, authentication also includes user data, right? And look, we can't use this. Display name means nothing for authentication with Firebase. And in order for us to do this, we have to include Firebase. So let's do that. So I'm going to kind of, in here, we're going to include that. So we're going to say let Firebase, right, is equal to require, and this is where it's kind of neat. We're going to go to the config route, right? So here's config slash, that's the first part. Then let Firebase, copy this over and over again, by the way, is equal to Firebase.games. Okay. Let Firebase admin, for you guys, right? It's Firebase.admin. Firebase auth equals to Firebase.auth. So what we've done is, all I've done is I've taken the here, display homepage should be, that comment should be here, and required for Firebase. So you guys see what that is. This part here, we're going to copy into our games, our users, and we may not need all of it, but for now, it's safe to put it in. So take this part here, these things, and go to users. Let's say underneath the user model, which we don't need anymore, put it in here. And for our games, we'll put it in there too. So we'll go at the top, underneath our games, put that in there. Might as well do it for our API, because we're going to do it eventually for there as well. We have it all everywhere there. It's going to be required. Makes sense? Let's go back to index. So now this is good. Now that we have access to this, what we can do with our index is instead of my display name, rec user, that's not correct. It's actually Firebase auth, right? Dot current user. The code ending that I want, but that's okay. Firebase, not Firbase. Firebase auth dot current user. See what that does? User, yeah, there we go. Which is equal to Firebase auth right? Because I'm not choosing one of the Firebase auth dot current user. You can see it all, a little long, right? Dot display name. Or that's the new one. And the reason why is because we're not going to use Passport anymore. And that old stuff was for Passport. So I'm going to grab this whole thing, right? I'm going to copy it a bunch of places. Here, down here, in the contact route, the other routes here, because it's all over the place, right? We do this everywhere. So I'm going to go to users, put that in here too, right? That's the new route, right? And see that we see display name is equal to this. Want to include it. Now we're going to get rid of some of this stuff, but I wanted to show you so that it doesn't cause an error, because without this, it causes an error everywhere. I did it here, I did it down here, I did it down here, right? And that's under users. Let's try the same thing under, so again, you can see that this is okay, but this is only part of it, right? Display name, do one of these, Firebase current user. Same thing here. Because we're changing our model, right? We're changing the way we're connecting. Okay, I think that's it. Now API. And you don't want to find replace. Find replace would kill you. You shouldn't need it in the API because we're going to get rid of all that access in a second. But just there's like one place that we could have used it. Okay. All right. So that's really it. The first part. The first part is all these routes are placed with this proper thing. I've included this. These routes work the same. There's no difference here. All I'm doing is I'm checking to see if my Firebase auth current user is the same. And if I was to run the app just to check to see if it's good, looks like I've closed down or hidden it somewhere. There it is. Now if I run the app, so if I go nodemon, well, I shouldn't have an error. Again, all I've done is added this line so far, and this stuff here, this top stuff. All right, let's go and check it out. Let's see if it works. So I'm here and refresh. I shouldn't get an error anymore because I've updated my page. 2. And again, I'm going to probably run short on time with all the stuff I need to do. But remember what we did with our users, right? We had a bunch of routes, and in our users controller, what do we do here? Display login. Do I have to change anything in display login? Are we actually doing anything in display login? Doing anything here? We're just displaying the login for the login page, right? Now there's something that's wrong, right? One of the things that you notice, and I want to point this out, if I go back to online, let's go back to Firebase for a second. If I click on authentication on the left on the Firebase, oh, I'm looking at the wrong one, 10A. Ooh, did I mess up? I may have messed up. Did I mess up? Let's see if I messed up. Definitely I messed up somewhere, I'm telling you. And I would suffer the whole time, not knowing what I did. 10B, project settings, service accounts. See, this was never done. Sorry, I'm just going to update my settings. So I'm going to put this on my, yeah, see, I got 10A, not 10B. Oh, that would have been deadly. I would have been connected to the wrong account. Bear with me while I change that. I have multiple ones. No, I don't want to do that right now. And just fix my, I'm just going to fix my config. Because that's fixed. And in my Firebase.js, I think that's also wrong, 10A. So I'm going to go into, that was bad. I don't know how that happened. It's wrong too. So 10B is wrong too. So let's go back into, bear with me. So I just picked it up, and that would be very, very bad if we did this wrong. Then I would be racking my brain saying nothing's working today. Actually, it's totally not true. Remember, it only does for you what you tell it to do, right? And if you tell it to do bad things, it's going to give you bad things. Or like people like to say, garbage in, garbage out, right? Say. And also RTFM, we have to put that out there as well. Read the find manual, and you can replace find with whatever word you want. So there we go. So we got this. This is all wrong. Why is this again? It should be 10B. I don't know what happened there. That's sorry, I had to realign that, or else I would have a real big issue. And I noticed that because when I was going through it, I was going, oh, that's wrong. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to distract you guys. But under this, under the, when I go to the users, if I go to my authentication account now, notice how it says, hey, how do you want to authenticate manager? How do you want to manage users? You should see the screen here. You guys see the screen? Click on set up sign-in method. If you click it, you might, on the left, you can see that you can sign in with Google, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, that, and email, password. That's what we want. So click this little pencil here. Underneath there, you can click on enable. You can log in with email password. Okay, now, email password, not username password, which means our login screen is wrong. Let's change that. So let's go back to our page, go to our views on the server now. So we're inside views, auth login. And inside that views auth login page, right, you can see that we have username. We got to change this to email. Type would be email, and or the type of email, and our name would also be email. Change all those, right? If you don't change that, then when you use your login page, it won't work. That's what this does. Going back to my my controller's users controller, right? Would work, right? Because we're going to just display the login and it's going to show this stuff. No problems. Okay, next. Here's where we have to do the process login piece. So when I process my login page, it's going to ask me for this part. But Passport Authenticate, man, this doesn't do any good for us. It doesn't do anything for us at all. This pattern. This is wrong. Normally we want this kind of pattern, right? So where you have this thing, we know this part is wrong. It has to be request response. Let's change this right away. So we're going to change this on the top here to request response and actually next. Let's put that in there. Request response and next. And get rid of all this stuff. We don't need this anymore. Bang. So our process login is going to look a lot different than this. Now, if we change it here, process login, on the controller side, that means we need to change it when it comes to the routing as well. So I'm going to go to our users route, and where we log in, notice we can't do this anymore. We can't put users login on the same line. Do one of these, which is to say that we have to do a anonymous function that takes in request response and next function. And we want to put our users, this stuff inside of here, right? Like this now. We want to pass inside of there request response and next. Why? Because we can't do it on the line anymore. That doesn't work like that for Passport works where you can do, hey, check authentication. But Firebase doesn't work like that. So we have to modify things for Firebase. So display login, display in process login. Process login is what we're working with right now. If you go back to the controllers, right? So if I click on users, there's a big space here. We're going to start typing. And here's where we go. We actually finally process the login. It's going to look like this. Firebase auth dot. This is like we're logging in for the first time, right? Look at what we have. We have options here. You should see these options if you've got the code hinting. With email and password, right? And then when we open it up, it tells you what you need. You need email and a password string. And it returns a Firebase promise. Okay, well, how does this work? Well, we need to send in our request, right? Body.email body.password. And those two things in. It does the authentication. We want to do something. Now we're going to talk promises. And what are promises? We ask for a service to do something for us, right? Example, with email and password. And then we want a response. If it works, then do this. If it doesn't work, then do something else. almost have half of it right there. Do this for me first. Sign in with email and password. Then I want to do an anonymous function, a callback function. We're going to return redirect, and we're going to take us back to the games page, right? So when we log in, take me back to the games. Take me to the games page. If it fails, right? So we did the then. That's that part of the. That's this part of the promise. So we're going to return some kind of data. Promise me that you're going to return some kind of response, right? The positive response usually, and the negative response. Sometimes there's three parts. Do this, get a positive response, and what do you do with the negative response? So this is the negative response. What happens if for example, I can't get access? There's a problem. Well, we want to do something called a catch. That's the negative response. If you find a problem, then let's do an anonymous function. That's what this says. Function. Well, we want to set error code equal to error.code. And we want to say our error message to error.message. These are actual objects that. Okay, so those are two things we want to do. Now we want to use those messages. Firebase has a bunch of error messages that you can spawn back to the browser, right? For example, if the error message is, you get an error message that says, hey, incorrect username and password, you can send that back to the browser, and they're built in. And they look like this. Our error code, right? If our error code is equal to, and here's a built-in one, auth/wrong password. That's right from Firebase, by the way. I didn't make this up. We want to do a rec.flash. So we want to use Flash, connect Flash, and connect to this thing called login message. And we want to say incorrect password. Now, this is not exactly secure. Because telling people you have an incorrect password means this password's wrong. Keep trying the password. Say invalid input or something, so they don't know what the problem is. But it's kind of half there. It stops them from knowing. Error code. Let's do the other one. What about if it's an incorrect username? User-not-found. Well, if that's the case, then we want to say rec.flash. Let's contain that login message. And let's respond with incorrect username. I'm being a little bit inconsistent with my quotations, but that's okay. I'll fix that right now. All right. Then, right, if you got a message, what are we going to do? We want to return it back to the login page. Res.render. We're going to display this page, which is our auth login, right? And we're going to set up the things we do all the time when we log in, right? Now we have a, which is inside of our index.e.js, this part, where we kind of do one of these, take the title and the home and grab this whole thing. So I'm not going to type all that. Go back and paste it. Now it's not going to be home, it's going to be login. So let's change this to login. Thing called messages. We're going to put a message in there. And the message is going to be rec.flash login message, which we just kind of talked about a couple times. Login message, take this one of these two login messages if there's an error, and the only time this page is going to show up again, the login page, is if there's an error, right? Problem, some kind of problem that we encountered improperly. And that's it for the login. The login's done. So that's basically that process is the login attempt. Selena's eyes to make sure she's good. She's not good. Are you far behind? Keep going. Don't worry about me. Right. All right. So what does this do? Well, if everything worked, then if I go back home and server I am, you can see that it's running again. Right. Then if I click on login, I should be able to process my login page. And now it says email. How do I know that it's going to work? Well, first of all, I need to have a user. I've never made a user right now. So I'm going to pick one. So here, and click login. If everything goes well, I should get a message saying, I don't know who you are. There we go. So what's happened is it's already starting to work. On trip, I've gone out to Firebase, say, hey, I'm trying to log in. It says, I don't know who you are. Right? And return it back. Let's register someone. This registration piece. One, you could physically go up on Firebase, go into authentication user. I don't recommend this method. Make your registration piece work, right? Because what it does is it does not include a display name when you do it manually, and then the site would fail because it keeps looking for display name everywhere, right? So our display name would be blank, even if it was accurate, like our login was okay. And I don't like that. We want to make sure we use the built-in our registration page. And so now this is the next part, right? So we scroll down to the next part, which we display registration. Is this okay? For the most part, we display registration is good, but we have an extra piece to our registration page, right? We have username. Let's get rid of it. So I'll go back over here. By the way, in the meantime, I'll put this to the GitHub for Selena. So I'll say added auth login, right? And push that up to GitHub. All right, but meanwhile, down in here, inside of our views auth register, you can see that we have our email and a username. We don't need a username anymore. We're only logging in with email. Useless. So let's get rid of it. Right, so we don't have a registration for email. And besides, email is far more secure because you can only have one person with the same email address typically. Else is exactly the same as how it should be on our registration page. Right? Now let's go back into our users again. And my display registration page works. That's good. Let's go into our process registration. You know what I want you to do, guys? Just kill it. That's inside our process registration because it's all wrong. I know it's a little bit of typing, but what can we do? All right, so last time what we did when we used a login, we did Firebase sign in with email and password. Well, you're going to see that it's not much. There's a lot of really cool functions here too. How does it work? Again, we need a request, response, and next object, right? And in our, when it comes to our current router, we don't give ourselves a next. So if I go into users, we have a process registration. We have a request response. Let's send in a next for this one. That piece. And now that we got our request response and next, this part, then we can start typing away. Here's how we go. If not auth current user. So basically this checks to see if I'm not already logged in. If the user is not already logged in, not already logged in, then and actually this piece here, I'm so sorry. This piece here should be part of the view up here, not rec user. This is going to fail, right? It's always going to work. This part here should be part of that. This part here, I apologize. This part here belong up there. here. Right, because that's when you're displaying the, if the person's logged in, you can't do rec user, right? Sorry about that. I meant, let's get rid of this. I meant to, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Ready for the real one? Here it goes. Firebase admin, right? Dot auth, right? Dot create user. And in there, we need to define the user, which is email body.email, right? And email verified, that's new. Email verification as well with the system built in. Password is equal to rec.body.password. And I'll put them all in for you. You can see them. Display name, which is cool. Rec.body.display name. And then finally, disabled, because you can actually disable an account, is equal to false. Right? Like everything in Firebase, this returns a promise, right? This returns a promise. So try and create a user, Firebase. Are you good? Cool. Then, if you're good, do the following. User record. What I want to do is I want to do the following. Record. What I want to do is the following. If I'm logged, now I want to log in, attempt to log in, right? So sign in, right? After registration. We don't want him to go register again on his own. I mean, or log in on his own. He's already just done all the hard work, right? Just log him in, right? So Firebase auth, got sign in with this part before, right? Rec.body, we're automatically doing it now, that's all. Before we were doing it by him letting him put his passwords and everything in. And guess what? If we're doing this, this also requires a promise, right? So we're gonna do the promise again. So then, if everything goes well, push the user to an anonymous function that does a very simple thing. Res redirects to games, right? Make them go to the games. You log them in. Log them in and send them to the games or games file. But there's also a chance that somehow something went wrong. So we always want a chance to catch errors. One here, or we do a console error, whatever that error is. We don't know what that error is. Because that would be really weird that we registered him fine, but he can't log in automatically. Res.redirect to login, right? Somehow there's a problem, put him back to login. We don't know what the problem is, but show the error on the console and send him back to login. And that's this part. Registration piece. Try and register him or log him in. I mean, automatic login, right? Okay, that's this one. This, right? How about this then catch? We don't have a catch for this one, so we're going to add one down here. So around mine line 92, I'm going to do a catch. It's going to be very similar to what we've seen. We're going to say error where you pass the error to an anonymous function and do the same thing. Let error code. By the way, let's just copy the error code and stuff like that from up above. So we're going to do this. Scroll up to lazy, this part. Grab those two lines. Actually, let's grab these two lines and this. Just one of those. Kind of scroll down. Space in our code, which is right here. So let error code, let error message, and let error code is equal. This is wrong. It's auth weak password. If it's a weak password, then send something to the register message that says the password is too weak. By the way, the password I've set up is really weak, but it works. I'm just saying. So we say instead of auth weak password, we're going to do auth email already in use. That's a really useful one. Email in dash use. Where we say email right, and the last one might be something like, I mean, these are options. You don't have to put any of this stuff in. I mean, I think that they're useful. Messages to the user. Invalid, where the email is invalid somehow and it's been passed to the back end, because sometimes JavaScript fails to catch on the front end. Like if it's a weird email address that JavaScript won't catch. Yes, we got those. So we got password is too weak, email is already in use, the email address is not valid. Okay, if you get any of these errors though, and you're in the catch phase, let the then phase, which is positive, and the catch phase, which is negative. Catch phase, then you want to do the same thing. Return res.render. Oops. That page again, right? Which is auth register. Right? And together this last time with the login, I'm just going to be lazy and grab the login stuff again, which is this part here, this res render stuff. I'm going to grab the title and the display name and the messages. Grab all this part. It's very similar to what we're doing down here. And paste. And it's going to say register again. And rec flash, register message. I think we got everything. Yep. This message, why don't I send them back to the registration page? If I did that, there's most times you'll lose the registration, the register message will be gone, right? So we do it inline. So the registration message comes back with a, hey, here's a register message, right? Otherwise, if we didn't do that, then who knows? Maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't. All right, so that's really it for registration. If it works, and I'm going to register my first user. So this is my registration piece. Here, let's fix this logout. This logout's wrong, right? And let's just wipe this away. Actually, we don't take care of this part, but we'll wipe it away anyway. So process logout is very similar. It's Firebase auth, right? Dot sign out. Sign in anonymously. No, I want you to sign out. That's it. And of course, it's a promise, right? So it's going to be then in an anonymous function. And we're going to just do the same thing, res dot to dot slash. So it goes back to the home page. So redirects to home page after logout. Okay. One more. We have a problem with require auth. Require auth won't work this way anymore. Actually, it's a very simple fix. Remember, require auth is the way we block pages, right? So how do we block pages from happening? We know that inside of our games, or our games root, we have this require auth all the time. And it looks like this. We can't use this. So how does it look now? Well, it looks like this. It says, if not auth, Firebase auth, right? Dot current user. If that doesn't exist, then return res dot redirect back to user login. One line. So now we've got our require auth, we got our registration and login and logout. Let's see if registration works, right? of all, I'm going to go to GitHub and say added Firebase registration and logout. Okay, should have all the, check it and see if it works. So I'm going to go back to here, go to login, refresh the page. Oh, sorry, just click on login again. On account, I know that, so I'm going to click register. Yay, the registration page comes up. Okay, now I need to put in a proper email address, but I'm going to pick one I've already used. One in here, so Tom. And if everything goes well, if I click submit, then it'll create my user, right? And we're back to bang. Here we are, right? So we worked. Up on Firebase if it worked. So click on Firebase console. And if I refresh, new user, right, which is here. Okay. Hey, that's just because he's in front of me working diligently on his requirements. Let's see. So if I go back to my home page and I try it again, so I'm going to log out. Oh, what happened there? Problem. It showed login. It didn't show me, right? So if I click on login, I'm logged in. What happened there? How come that's going on? Well, remember where this is happening. Login, right? That's happening on in my nav bar, right? Right? So there's an error right here because I can't log out. I'd have to do one of these things. Go here and then I can log out, right? And that's also a problem. So log out doesn't take me anywhere. It says found. That's bad. Right? Because if I go here, I'm cool. This thing, it tells me users log out. I meant that. Users log out. Good. And if I log in, cool, that should say log out now. It doesn't. So that's a problem. All right, so we have to see why that is. What I'm getting here on the back end. Did you make it work at all? It's not my fault, Celine, I swear. Right? We did the list itself, added the list component and everything else in there, but we see we're getting a bit of an error for logging out. There's our login. We're not getting an error back. Let's see if we're getting an error on the console. So inspect. A lot of times this might give us some hints on what to do. Nothing's coming back that's giving me an error, which means returning nothing. Check for this kind of thing. We get partial control of what's happening, but in our user's root also displays everything. You have to make sure that this is correct. Firebase current user display name. And also online, did I put my display name in there, right? It says I never signed in. Look, let's see if I did. Yeah, see that didn't work. Look, signed in, never signed in properly, but yet it took me back to the page. Okay, let's try that again. That was weird. I did get a different result earlier today. Let's go back to login and register a new user. Register Eddie. Oh, that was weird. See that? Because I'm already registered. So sorry, I'll go users, logout, go to login, click use register. That's good. At least that part worked. So it detected that I'm there. So I'll say Eddie at example.com. Then we'll keep the password, and our login name was be Eddie Song. There we go. Okay, again, problem, right? And I go back over here to our Firebase console, put us in there. He logged in. That was weird. Eddie made it. Somehow I didn't. But Eddie made it fine, right? Somehow he made it. He logged in, right? And it accepted him. It's, you know, accepted his thing. Notice the provider here is only by email and password. Also, I can't really do much. I can't look at details in the accounts. One thing I don't like about accounts online, you don't have a lot of control, right? I can reset my password. I can disable the account. I can delete the account. That's all I can do online, which I wish there was more options online to do more user management, but that's just me. All right. Why isn't it getting the user, right? Somehow it's either not getting the username or we made a mistake typing. That means I made a mistake typing. Well, let's take a look and see what it does. First of all, the user model, it wants to look for the Firebase auth current user. And this part is the same everywhere. Firebase auth current user is equal to this. Okay, so we're good. That's our ternary operator, right? So that should work everywhere. Login, flash, and in the sign in process, rec.body to email, rec.body to password. I'm going to check my form, my form to see what it is. So the best way to check this would be how? What would you do? A dreaded problem where you'll get nothing. It's easy when you get an error back. If someone gives you an error back and says, I can address the error. But what when you, the worst part kind of error is when you get nothing back. It's just not working at all, right? Are you getting it to work? No? Yours works? Probably types wrong, right? Uh-huh. So maybe the your registration piece. Oh. Take a look. Let me take a look here. Let me go back in there and look at that, and then we'll stop for the day. All right, so sometimes looking like for a needle in a haystack, guys. I apologize, but that's just how it is. Because login, we're not even seeing anybody on when we're logged in. That's kind of the key there, right? Firebase current user. All right, well, let's do a couple things here. One thing is, notice how our current user, right? We can display our current user on the command line, right? Our console. We have a current user. We know what our current user is. Otherwise, when we're displaying registration, right? Or when we're logging in, right? We can display the current user. So let's do that. So let's say blah blah. Registration wouldn't really matter. But when I process my login or my sign in with email and password, right? Before I redirect, I want to process I want to show the current current user. I want to show that, whatever that user is. So I want to do it there. I'm going to talk about it at. We'll say this is when sign in after register. We're going to do that part there, that little login, right? That's the current user after login. After registration, I'm going to do the current user after login. So just log in, sign in with image, and then before I redirect, I will sign in after login. See if I get the current user. If I don't get the current user here, that's a negative. All right, so let's try this out. So again, I've come back to this, right? And I'm going to restart the server. Go to here, and I'm going to go to login. And I'm going to log in me. And now I'm going to check the log. Because before all this RxJS business, there, log in. And I'm returning back object that's object. That, my friends, is why I'm not getting back what I'm getting back. I'm actually getting back something weird. Display name, current user. It should be current user dot display name. And I'm wondering if I've typed the display name somewhere. So this should be dot display name. So show me my display name, in other words. And the same thing goes with my registration. Current user, display name. That's what happens when you copy paste. Remember I said it's easier to destroy than to build? I was lying. Don't listen to me. Let's try that again. Log in, log in. Cool. All right, good. Now let's see what I got. So, logged in. No. See? I'm getting a no back. I'm not getting a display name, which is two possibilities. One, when I register a user, I didn't register properly. And I think it's an error. Sorry, it's right in user process registration. Body.display name, rec.body.password. Let me see if I got that right.
Yeah. So the display name.
There it is. So it never got registered. So those two users that we had never were registered properly. Remember I said if you don't put them in, if you put them in on the console up in line, but if you do it right, if you register properly, it will. That's what it was. I typed it wrong. See how I traced it? Has to be a reason, right? One reason might be this. I checked it. Okay, let's check out online how to fix that. So online, on Firebase, we're going to delete my two users, right? We'll put them in again. So delete accounts. And we're going to delete this account. Again. So go back here, and we'll go to login, and we'll register me. And there's my display name right here. Now this is also kind of identifying a weakness in our code. Because if the user chooses not to enter a display name, he'll cause a problem with our code. So you have to either make it mandatory, or we have to somehow come around that and not on user registration. This works okay now, right? Let's just try one more time and put in Eddie's name again. We're good to go. We can log out. All right, so let's talk about what we've gone over. So that is so far all the pieces for our registration. We're just going to upload the fixed version. Fixed registration. So we did registration with Firebase. The great thing about Firebase, if you notice, and this is just to recap all we've done so far today, we talked about our project. The first video we talked was all around our project, what we're going to do, how we're going to set things up. Please, when you do your submission, please remember when you write your submission up, who's doing what I want for next week. I want to know who's your project manager or producer, who's your designer, right? You know, who's the person that's primary doing that? Who's your tester, your QA analyst, or whatever you want to call them? Someone's got to be involved with these different hats. Who's doing it? Okay. If you have a large team, you better be ready to justify it, right? So everyone has to have a job. If someone says, I don't know, that's a surefire indicator for me that you're going to get a 0 for next time coming up, right? Just letting you know, I don't like getting zeros, especially when it comes to, like, you know, your final project. So please find yourself a role. If you don't have a role, if you're like, well, I'm kind of an engineer and not really know what I'm doing, you should be very confident in what you're doing. I'm an engineer. I'm a project manager. I'm the designer. I'm the, you know, whatever you're going to be, the QA analyst. What have you analyzed? What have you tested? Right? You have to do something. If you haven't done anything, you're like, well, I kind of don't understand what that means. 0, right? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm joking around. But it's because you should know what you're doing in a project team. Otherwise, you know, you're wasting your time. Okay? All right, then we went into what was wrong with Angular, which obviously there's still something wrong with Angular, is the answer. And Angular 4 is out, but don't use it. We talked about that, right? The last part was, how do I migrate from Mongoose and Passport to Firebase? And the one last piece, sorry, I did forget one piece before I let you guys go. Did forget is we don't need the app.js pointing to our Passport anymore, yeah? I look at app.js, right? And if you look at the stuff that I'm loading a lot of little things here for my authentication. For example, all this Passport stuff, I can just get rid of it. Look, let me comment it out for now. So this part here, other than Connect Flash, I don't need this, right? Because that is part of our old Passport authentication strategy. I don't need this part. If I don't need that, then, well, if I scroll down, there's other stuff I don't need either, right? So far, I do need this stuff because, you know, we got that. But next week, we'll get rid of that too, right? Also get rid of all the stuff after our Connect Flash, so this Passport stuff here. So this part can go. We're not logging in anymore with Passport. And then also the user model is not really necessary anymore because it's being handled online. So we can get rid of all this. This is what we saved, all this stuff. We're actually not loading these modules anymore. And if that's true, then up on in our, go to our users, user model, right? We don't need this stuff either. We don't need Mongoose or right, because we're not using it anymore, right? We don't need this stuff to log in, so we can get rid of all this stuff too. Right, because just to show you that we don't need this stuff to log in or whatever, right, with our user model. To prove this, I'm going to go back online for a second, and then I'll end it off. If I click on login, I'm logged in. If I log out, I log out, right? I wouldn't be able to do that if I needed Passport. So that's the thing. I'm moving away from Mongoose and Mongo altogether. Next week, we'll take care of the other routes done today, but I kind of had a divergent problem with Angular, which I'll fix next week. Keep in mind what we just done here today, right? So those 3 pieces. Also, please remember that next week on Friday is your first part that's due. We're going to spend one part of next week getting together. So I want you to hole up in your teams. For people that are remote, one person, every team, the project manager, whoever designates themselves as the project manager, I want to see next week live here. Your team gets 0, right? So please make sure you're here. It's required. It's the first part. I want to see it. Okay? Thank you so much, guys, and see you next week.